ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. Won't stop, come on, take me higher.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Fight Night Fortunes with none other than good friend and colleague, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro at GamLou. Go follow him on X or the Twitter, whatever we're calling that today. This weekend, UFC Las Vegas 103. Back at the Apex, as Lou like to say, small cage, less fans, but that's okay. We're going to get a lot of action there. The headliner, tried to get creative here. Can Robo-Cop Rodrigues drop the cannon ear at UFC Las Vegas 103? So I know I don't write for the Herald of the Globe, so I'll keep on trying. But anyways, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnership. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Terry Smith over on Facebook. Introduce yourself. Place an order at AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Use the promo code SHRIMP and get a free 2-pound bag of the 1640s, the big ones, for some surf and turf, some some shrimp cocktail, however you want to use them up there. Terry, the best in the business. And last but never least, Viva Tequila Seltzer. 6 flavors in all. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. So without further ado, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro.
Jeff, good afternoon. We keep marching here into February now. We're past the Super Bowl. And so UFC numbers will get a little more volatile. Action will get a little heavier, more eyeballs upon us, which is all very good as we share the stage now, not with football any longer, but with basketball. And so we get a little more popular. It's great to have that. And it's great to be with you yet another week as we have another 6-7 weeks in a row to keep marching through UFC events.
And so much to talk to before we dig into the 4 fights that you'd like to break down this week. Let's start. A week ago, we were talking Super Bowl. We were all excited for the rematch, Eagles versus Kansas City. And you know, at some point, 2 weeks because of the week off, it gets nauseating. Listen to every Tom, Dick, and Harry on their angle, their 5, 10, 15, 20-legged parlays. Sooner or later, they got to sing the national anthem and play ball. I think about 8-9 minutes in, Lou, I thought I was watching a version of Tampa Bay with Tom Brady versus Kansas City. I knew in the first quarter it was a wrap, Lou.
Oh, well, actually, Jeffrey, I felt strongly 2 weeks before the game that it was going to be a rout, and bet it that way. I had every derivative you could possibly have of Philadelphia, -4.5, -6.5 on the money line. Hurts MVP, Barkley MVP. I will say I did have a straight bet on Barkley for anytime touchdown. So that cost me a 2-1. I'm not afraid to admit that, but I come right back with my famous play every year for 45 years. Tails never fails, baby. So I had a lot of fun with the Super Bowl. It always represents for me a freeing, because now I have all week long to work these fights, as well prepare myself for college baseball that starts tomorrow, and hockey playoffs that I'm about 6 weeks away upon. So it's a great time of year for me. Very, very liberating.
Well, and college baseball this weekend at Valentine's Day tomorrow, but we got college baseball, and I'll be doing the show tomorrow morning with Matt Grissom, Quentin Mills, and Nick Hathcote there. The NCAA Insiders, the third year now. You got to be super stoked. Nebraska, Omaha will be a few months away. I mean, let the boys play.
I am super stoked, and those guys that you have on your show are very, very good. They do really in-depth analysis. They have great access to starting pitching, and they have passion. And I will be tuning in for those, because you can't help but learn listening to those young men. They're all very good.
Last week, now I am not smart. I learn from you every week.
That's why you're not smart.
And I talked to you a handful of weeks ago about Yuri coming off the 2 losses against Pereira. It was kind of do or die for him. Last week, the 2 fights that stood out to me, and you talked about it at length on one of them on your Sneak Tea podcast, and again this week you rehashed it. Sometimes the public's right. Sometimes it's just a smokescreen. But in the email that I sent you about Zhang, I couldn't believe the closing number here, Luke. Can you explain anything to me on that?
I think it's a combination of things. It's a combination of how much respect wrestlers get, and Suarez is a world-class American wrestler. However, if you dig in deeper, you got to peel layers back. Wrestlers have to learn how to fluently evade strikes, strike, and dwell in a game or a competition that involves stand-up striking. And so what Suarez had done in her brief amount of time was impressive, but she hadn't been in against any kind of near the level of competition Zhang was in. Zhang as well is short, stocky, strong. As she lifted Francis Ngannou up and walked him around. She's built low to the ground, and it wasn't going to be easy for Suarez to take her down. And it's easy for me to sit here on this side being one of one that was not understanding this line. I had Suarez, I had Zhang from the beginning at a what I thought was a good price. We had parlayed her into a minus 125 position. Then I took her again. We took her for a second unit, made our number plus 100, and we still didn't get positive EV, but we had the right side, and that's very encouraging, because many folks that I really trust and respect were on the Suarez side. Yet, all that being said, I've learned to stick to my guns. Something didn't make sense there. This Zhang is one of the best of all-time women fighters, and maybe now she'll get her due.
And in the main event, DPP versus Strickland. Strickland gets his nose shattered, but Strickland just doing what he's a dog. He's an animal. He's not going to quit. Respect, hats off, but DPP takes anyone backing him to the window and cashes there as well, Lou.
Yeah, I blow a half unit on a parlay with Strickland, and I'm done betting on Strickland, and his coach is done betting on him. Strickland is a great young man that's overcome unbelievable obstacles in his life, but he still struggles with the ability to be level and consistent over time. And I think that's what we're seeing in these comments from Eric Nixick, his trainer and corner man, since there'll be more evolutions of this story that come out. Suffice it to say that Strickland is a dog. I respect the heck out of him. Fighting has gotten him out of some of the situations that he was left with and born into, and allowed him to succeed. So I'm pro Strickland, even though the guy's a whack job. You got to give Duplessis his due. That said, Duplessis got two guys, 3 fights. Strickland twice, okay, and Izzy, who by now we see is washed, once. Duplessis still has a lot to prove to me. I'm not convinced of him as the legit middleweight champion, though I must recognize him today as such.
Last question before we dig into the fights here. Some people come into the actual UFC late. There's no age where, in sports, like in baseball, we're saying, all right, they're in their prime, 25, 26, 27. This fighting game, especially in the octagon, is a lot later. I've asked you this before, but again, taking a look at Strickland, and there's a handful of other fighters. There's one, actually, the kid from Boston, Qatar, on a 3-game losing streak. Is there a certain point in these guys' career where, I'm not saying they're just in it to cash checks, because sometimes you can catch lightning in a bottle and then the light bulb comes back on and you might get a nice 4 or 5 winning streak. But is there a certain point, like you just said about Strickland, no mas, enough's enough, we move on?
Yeah, there is, but you have to study each fighter individually to determine where that is. I can't say that every welterweight gets tired here or every bantamweight starts to show it here. I would say overall, the bigger you are, the later you can fight into. It's hard for a 135-pound skilled guy, 2 flies in a jar, that when you get to be 35 and you slow down, you're not a fly in a jar anymore. You're a beetle, and the fly is much faster. And so that answer changes based on the fighter, what they've been through, who they fought. It's very individual, and that's why, in today's world, there's a lot of statisticians, there's a lot of analytics. They look at striking and strikes accepted and takedown defense and everything. But if you don't understand how each fighter wants to approach their fight and what their tendencies are in a fight, then the analytics are only a component of it. What I try and do is imagine what's going to happen when these two individuals get in a cage and fight. And sometimes I can be really, really good at that. And sometimes you'd think I've never done it before in my life. That's what is challenging about it.
Well, music to everyone's ears here. 2025 so far in the UFC. Favorites 27-19-1, 57.4%. A far cry from 2024 when it landed just over 70%. At least we're moving in the right direction, Lou.
We are, and to be quite honest with you, Jeffrey, that I should be doing a little bit better based on that rate of underdogs right now. But I've taken a few positions with underdogs and favorites and used parlays into future cards, and so I have some of that coming up. But it's time to take advantage of dogs and live dogs when they're in regression. And it looks to be in regression right now. How long does it last? Boy, do I wish I knew, eh?
So don't I. Someday we'll get Biff's Almanac. How's that, Lou?
That's right. Exactly.
UFC Fight Night, February 15, 2025, Las Vegas. Main card, 7 p.m. Eastern. 4 cards we're going to break down tonight. I'm live right now on DraftKings. First fight, Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. Currently on DraftKings, Elijah Smith minus 162, Vince Morales plus 136, over 2.5 rounds. Lou minus 298, the under 2.5 plus 220.
Smith has long ties into MMA. His dad was a mixed martial artist, and so he comes in with pedigree and name, but this is his debut fight, and he's fighting against a guy in Morales that seems to be everybody's stepping stone. Morales was in the UFC and went like 3-5 against good fighters, then took a stint away, kept fighting, earned his way back. This is his second stint back. His first fight, they gave him kind of a short notice fight in France against a Frenchman that's a badass, Taylor Lapalus, and he fought willingly and lost a decision. Now he gets this contender graduate and comes an underdog. I think Morales is getting underestimated here a little bit. And based on the fact that he's a little more mature, this is his second stint in the UFC, he's tough and durable and desperate as a cornered dog in an alley. I'm going to go with Morales as an underdog here and teach the young man and give him a PhD in MMA. Morales has the experience. He's been in with better, and I like him in this spot as a plus 130, plus 135 underdog against young man and Smith that's bound to be good, but he's going to have to prove it to me.
And at the Apex, not many fans, as you like to say, and the small octagon, correct?
That's correct. So that doesn't affect these guys that much because they're 155ers, and so that really they're 135ers. They're bantamweights, so they'll have plenty of room to maneuver. I just think that it's tough for a newbie to come in and dominate a desperate guy that's trying to scratch and claw and remain in the organization. I just think this is a really favorable position for Morales.
The second fight here, Gabriel Bonfim versus Chaos Williams. Currently, Bonfim minus 218. Williams plus 180. Over 1.5 minus 154 currently on DraftKings. The under 1.5 at plus 120.
Jeffrey, we got to get some violence in on these fights, and doggone it, if this ain't the fight that's going to give it to us. There's two Bonfim brothers. This is the younger, taller one, and the dude's a bad hombre, but he's fighting Chaos Williams, who fights like his first name. Guy's got tons of power, finishing ability. Bonfim coming the favorite here, but you can see violence because the total 1.5 rounds, 154, that's shaded to the over, I would think it has to be. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and I think I think that this fight will go over, but I don't know by how much. If you're betting the over, boy, you're going to be holding your breath, because in the second round, each of these two guys going to start catching up with the other. Each of these two guys going to slow down just a touch, and each of these guys will be throwing from the third row. Do not miss either of the Bonfim brothers fights, but this Bonfim is long and tall and dangerous, and Williams is no pushover. This should be fight of the night as far as I'm concerned.
The third fight you would like to break down today, a local Boston hero, Mr. Calvin Kattar versus Youssef Zalal. Currently, Zalal minus 485. You can get Kattar at plus 370. Over 2.5 minus 230. As I said a few minutes ago, Kattar on a three fight losing streak. If got to stop the bleeding somewhere here. Big underdog here. It sounds like Vegas doesn't think it's going to stop here.
Kattar opens a plus 190, and that to me, that's about the right level of underdog in this fight. He has way more experience. He's been in against a higher level of competition than has Zalal. The problem is he's 36, and you see that he's coming off those 3 losses. Those 3 losses were to Godzilla, King Kong, and Superman. I'm telling you, he fought razor blade top end competition and got beat by those guys. So yeah, he's lost 3 in a row, but you got to figure who it is. Zalal, again, this is his second stint in the UFC. His first stint in the UFC, he had one really good fight against current champion in the featherweight division, Ilya Topuria, fought him to a decision. Then he looked, other than that fight, he looked terrible. And so they cut him, and he had to work his way back. He realized real quick that shining shoes and serving food at tables isn't the kind of living that fighting could bring him. So he got mature, he got serious, he came back to the UFC. His last 3 fights have been wins, and he stepped up in competition each way. That said, Zalal still stepping way up in competition against Kattar here, and this line has gotten way out of hand. It was correct at openers. Do I think Kattar can win? Yes. I think he can win. He's going to have to hit him. He's going to have to land on him. And Zalal's advantage here really is his unbelievable speed, leg work, footwork, movement, and ability to slip strike. So the question is, can Kattar catch up to him? I don't know. But the only way to bet it now would be to look at Kattar inside the distance, or Kattar via KO, and just put milk money on it and hope that's the way it goes, because this line's way out of whack. Zalal is good, probably wins a decision here, but don't count Kattar out.
Well, we'll be rooting for him locally here, Kattar, to find a way to stop the losing streak. Big dog, pizza and beer money, and pray. It is what it is. And then we move on here to the main event here. And currently right now, Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Robo-Cop Rodriguez. Rodriguez minus 230, Cannonier plus 190, over 2.5 minus 115, under 2.5 minus 115. So they're basically saying it's going to go past 2.5 rounds, or maybe not.
Well, it's a 5-round fight, so you don't often see 5.5-round fights line 2.5. That's a low number. They're telling you somebody's going to go, or somebody's going to finish the other guy, and each guy's going out there to finish the other guy. The key here is Cannonier's 40, undersized in this fight. Rodriguez is going to be 4 inches taller, much more powerful, thicker, bigger. But Cannonier is the man with the experience, the pedigree, the UFC ranking, and the footwork and speed. And so the issue for Cannonier is that he has fought his last 2 opponents have been top 5 guys in the division. They both beat him, one in a knockout 2 fights back, one in his last fight he fought to a tight decision. And Cannonier's proud, and he's a warrior, and he knows he's on his last gasp, but he's 40. Rodriguez is 32, bigger, slower, stronger. And so this is going to be, can Cannonier stay away from him for 5 rounds, pick and pack, slow Robo-Cop down and knock him out? Because that's his plan. Make no mistake about it. The Robo-Cop on the other side of the coin is just going to try and walk him down and eventually catch up to him. Now, if he can get him down on the floor and get on top position, this fight will be close to over because of Robo-Cop's pedigree and BJJ, as well his size. So it'll be interesting to see how this all goes. Cannonier trains here at Phoenix at the MMA lab. I'm usually always very, very pro lab guys, but I think this is a tough spot for Cannonier. This is his 3rd fight in about 7 months, 8 months, against top 5 young up-and-comers in the division. I almost wonder if he's really trying to bank right now, if his motivation is to get in a lot of top-end fights, earn some money. I have that suspicion as well. I almost wonder if the UFC is trying to give him all these lions to see if he can keep himself in his current position in the rankings. So the fight game's a tough game, and I think this might be a tough spot for Jared Cannonier.
Shout out to Mr. Shady himself saying, go, Lou, go. I did not do my homework again. Shame on me. Next week, where is the UFC? Do you know?
Yeah, they're in Seattle for a fight card, and it's going to be headlined by ex-world champion in Olympic wrestling, Henry Cejudo, who fights a Chinese athlete training in California named Song Yadong. Should be a great fight. Yadong is young, strong, powerful, but not the world-class wrestler that Cejudo is. He's going to try and hit Cejudo and split that melon in half. I think a lot of people besides me hope that he'll be able to do exactly that, but it should be a great fight.
Lou, everyone knows here on follow you at Gam Lou, obviously on Twitter, but Mondays, the Sneak Teep podcast, and of course the Belt Business podcast tomorrow after the weigh-ins. But we always give you a few seconds here. The stage is yours to talk about your website, talk about the charity that you work with, and to tell everyone exactly what you have to offer.
What I have to offer is a strong opinion on select sporting events that I work to try and earn profit upon. If you're interested, you can check me out at gamblu.com. Everything that the web page creates as far as income, gross income is part of the gross income is shifted and funneled directly to the San Xavier mission, which is the oldest mission in the United States. It's located south of Tucson, Arizona, just a couple hours south of me. They're doing great work there. And Jeff, I appreciate you having me on to talk fights every week, as well be able to mention the San Xavier mission because they're doing such great work.
Make sure you go follow Lou at GamLou, and of course, go check out his website as well at gamlou.com. Any questions, comments, concerns, send him an email to lou@gamlou.com. 5 o'clock, Ron Marbalewski will be back to give us a recap of the Super Bowl, talk about Kellen Moore going to the Saints, and much, much more. So everyone, thank you so much. Shady, have a great, great day, and we shall see you soon.